Hi everybody. Today I'm going to detail a series of events that I went through with Corey as he was a teenager into his early 20s. And at this point, you may think that your family member is just a teenager, he's just being a jerk, that they're on drugs. Can be very, very confusing for family members when these things are occurring. You know there's something wrong, but you can't really quite put your finger on what it is. So one night we get a phone call that Corey's being dropped off outside the neighborhood, and it's from somebody we don't know. Come and get your son, he's outside the neighborhood. So we go, and at this point we're living in a gated community. We go to the gate, and there he is with no shirt and just a pair of pants and his shoes, and he's really discombobulated. We get him home and realize he doesn't have really anything else with him, so his wallet's gone. We get a phone call, and this guy says, well, I've got your son's wallet, you need to meet me at this gas station and I'll give it back to you. But basically he was trying to extort us to get the wallet back. So I said to my ex-husband at the time, we're not going to go alone, we're going to call the police to go get this wallet. So it's after midnight, and again, it's over by Florida Tech, and it's part of that area, if you know the area, is not good, where the university is located. So we show up, and the cop is kind of hanging back, and I'm sitting in the car. My ex gets out, he goes in to see this guy, and this guy wants money for the wallet. Well, he notices the police pull up, he gets scared, he pretty much does the exchange real quick. We get the wallet back, all his ID, and the guy takes off. So we're kind of like, what the heck's going on? What was all that about? So we get the wallet safely, we get home, we get back to my son. My son is in no condition. He's not making any sense. He's saying people are out to murder him. And we realize at this point, look, we've got to safely get him in the car and get him to the psych ward. We get him to the psych ward, and if you buzz in Melbourne, Florida, they will say, oh, well, we can't just admit him, but they will perform an interview there with your loved one and yourself. So we did that, and they agreed that we needed to admit him. So he's admitted. You get to actually visit in the psych ward there. They have rooms, and there's a big space in the middle. So I would go on a daily basis when they allow me to go and visit him. And he's slowly getting better. And he's telling me these people are after him. They're going to murder him. He needs to get the hell out of Melbourne. So I'm thinking, well, he got involved in something really, really bad, and we do need to get him out of Melbourne. I call his sister in Nashville, and she says, come on, bring him up here. We'll take care of him. So I proceed to drive 13, 14 hours and take him up to his sister's, and now he's got a whole new medication plan. I can't even remember what medication it was because it was obviously completely wrong. So she's taking care of him. She's keeping him on his medication, and he keeps just taking off and disappearing. And after about 3 months, she eventually leaves him to babysit her kids, and I guess he throws a cigarette or something in the trash can. It lights the kitchen on fire. Fortunately, it didn't burn down, but she'd had enough. She said, he's got to go. I can't keep him here. So he gets sent to his dad's. His dad tries to whip him into shape by getting him a job, and he eventually gets a vehicle, and he's, going back and forth to work. At this point, he wasn't medicated. His dad didn't believe there was anything wrong. So he decides when he picks up his paycheck and cashes it in, he's going to put a tank of gas in. I think he had about $300. And he's going to go and pick up his little brother in California. And I can see the messages that he's putting out on his Facebook, on social media. And at this time, he was living on the outskirts of Atlanta. And he's getting further and further and further away. And I can tell his behavior and his statements on Facebook are just getting more out there, about going to get his brother, and he was saying things about feeling suicidal, and then he just kind of disappeared completely off social media. So I'm freaking out. There's no way to get a hold of him. His dad doesn't have a clue where he is. Nobody does. So I start tracing through the Facebook where the last posts were. And at that time, it was quite helpful. I haven't had to do this in a long time. So I saw where he dropped off of Facebook was Anniston, Alabama, which is a place I'd never heard of at the time. So I make a phone call to the police department, and they say, actually, yes, we just picked your son up. He was out in freezing temperatures in tuxedo pants with no shirt on, no shoes, in the middle of the highway, and just seemed very disoriented. So at this point, they did actually take him to the hospital and put him in the hospital. They tried to get him better, give him medication, and he was ultimately released to a homeless shelter. They have to place them, so they placed him in a homeless shelter. I'm in Florida at the time and could not get to where he was at, so through Facebook, I actually contacted his cousin that I'd not seen since she was a baby, and she agreed to go pick him up. But in that situation, then his car was left out there, which it got impounded. His medication had just been all over the place, a bunch of different medicines, and these events just kept occurring and occurring and occurring. His dad was under the belief that there was really nothing wrong with him. He was just a jerk and probably smoking pot. I knew there was something wrong, but didn't know how to fix it, and none of the psychiatrists or psych wards could seem to get his medication straight, and for that matter, his real diagnosis straight. So we think we're going through a lot, trying to help our loved one, but can you imagine what they're actually going through? All the delusions, all the hallucinations, all the pain, all the circumstances they're going through, losing jobs, losing housing, family members not wanting to deal with them. It's a lot. So just stick by them and try and make sure that on a daily basis that they've got shelter, they've got food, they're hydrated, you're taking them to the psychiatrist or the hospital for a hospital stay to get their medication right. But you as a family member have to stay on top of it. They're not being jerks. This is something that is affecting their brain, that their mind is telling them to do. You have to stay on top of it and work with them. And I know a lot of you probably say, well, I can't afford to do that. Well, neither can I. I left my whole entire life. I eventually ended up leaving my ex-husband of 15 years and came up to help him with nothing and lived in the basement of my other son's house. So, yes, I had a little bit of help with housing, but I had no money, had to leave a good job, and had to dedicate most of my time to getting my son well. And the good news is he's doing pretty well at this point in time. Just stick with it and realize there's a lot of families dealing with very similar situations. And your loved one may be bipolar, schizophrenic, schizoaffective, a drug addict, or a lot of the time it's both, because they want to feel better, so they'll go towards drugs to feel better. So they may have an underlying mental condition with drug addiction. But if they get onto the right medication, then they don't need those drugs anymore, because the drugs are going to make them feel terrible. They're just trying to feel better. So understand that you're not alone. If you feel like putting any comments in the comments section, maybe asking me to speak on situations that you're particularly interested in, that I've maybe been through. The only way we're going to learn is through sharing our stories and experience, because I'm going to tell you, the psychiatrists and the people at the hospital, they don't live with them. We know what's going on best because we deal with them on a daily basis. Don't throw them away. You can make this situation good. There's medications out there. You just have to find the right one, the right dosages for your loved one. Have a great day.